We did a photo shoot with him. He walks in, and he still has the ability to change the temperature of any room he walks into. And I said to his guy, he looks fantastic. How are you keeping him in shape? And he said, kale. Just kale.
He's eating a lot of kale, really.
All we do
artisanal kale.
We feed him
Democrat.
Kale. No. Okay.
So that's the nutritional advice from President Clinton. What were kind of the highlights that you heard from him when you were able to see him speak with some CEOs?
What we really did here was they actually came to us a couple weeks ago and they said, hey, we really like your magazine. Your issues are our issues. Maybe we should do something. And we thought, yes, the president would like to do something. We'll do something. So what we decided to do was actually sort of open the floor. Rather than do an interview with us, we went to 3 CEOs and 2 civic leaders and said, what would you do if you had access to the president as a consultant? So we went to Paul Jacobs from Qualcomm, John Chambers at Cisco, David Crane at Energy, Sheila Rawlings-Blake, who's the mayor of Baltimore, my hometown, which is not exactly the reason we went to her, but it's not the reason we went to her, and Jorge Ramirez, who's the president of the Chicago Federation of Labor. And basically, they all took advantage of the opportunity. They went very specifically with kind of use cases from their industry of their concerns, and the president sort of soaked it all up.
He likes to do things that actually have substance. What a shock. And this is about Chicago, about jobs, about investment. What is the theme that you presume we will see?
Well, I think what he really wants to talk about is public-private partnership. And, a lot of people in industry come to him and say, we can't get anything done. The government's broken. He says, well, the government's not actually broken, but what you really need to do is come to the government with half a solution and persuade people to come meet you halfway. And so whatever the problem is, he tries to first diagnose how much you can get done working with Washington, and then he builds coalitions in private industry. So, when you're talking about the skills gap, which is a really big concern for Jorge Ramirez and his group of people in Chicago, he says, all right, look, the government is only going to do so much to train people. We recognize this. They're resource constrained. What can the AFL-CIO do in working with some of these industries? And it turns out the AFL-CIO has given a ton of money out of its pensions to try and diagnose exactly the level of the skills gap and then work with companies to fill it.
And that was kind of my question on implementation. We all know that President Clinton is a magnanimous speaker. He has great ideas. But to take this discussion into the actual real world and get it done is a much different story.
It is a much different story, and I think that if you were to look at it in the abstract, you'd say, well, the problem with this is it's all predicated on one guy being the sort of coalition leader, and those models rarely work out. Except the one guy is Bill Clinton, and he can actually get those CEOs in one room. He can get the government to listen, and so it really is, the C is first for a reason. You're coming there, in fact, to tap his expertise, to tap his coalition building, and so that model works, at least within CGI.
Right, at least within CGI. So what happens once you leave it for the rest of the year?
That's the key question.
I don't think he's there saying, I'm going to solve every global problem. And part of what he's drawing people toward is, he really does attract practical-minded people at this point. And so the CEOs we went to, really, they want practical counsel.
Shameless plug. What's another idea in Bloomberg Business Week this week?
Well, I don't know if it's another idea, but there's a great story about the bond between Vladimir Putin and Steven Seagal. I don't know if anybody saw this.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Steven Seagal is an informal ambassador for Russia. The two of them met. As you can imagine, they're both manly men. They both like weapons. And so Seagal has become very close with Putin. And in fact, when the government of the United States wanted to find out more in the wake of Boston about the Tsarnaevs, Steven Seagal played a role in that. And so we sort of diagnosed this friendship and talk about it.